Welcome into the Shop Management Show presented by AutoLeap. I'm your host, Will. This podcast will explore the experiences, challenges, and lessons learned of auto repair shop owners. We'll cover every topic imaginable from EVs to ADAS, right to repair, the technician shortage, and so much more. AutoLeap is a cloud-based shop management software that allows shop owners to better run their business, increase efficiency, and grow revenue. You can find a link to schedule a free demo with AutoLeap in the show notes of this episode. Please like, share, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Moving to the second guiding principle that we mentioned, how do providing clear explanations benefit both the customer and the auto repair business? And then how can you effectively communicate that to your customers?
Well, I think first of all, you got to, in some ways, understand who you're talking to, right? And so, what's the personality of the person? Do I need to describe down to the detail how this is going to work? Or is this someone that really just wants to know, is it going to be okay? And are you going to treat me fairly, right? Which is the majority. So if you understand personality profiling, there's one personality that needs all the details, and there are C personalities, they're the engineers, and they really need the details. And you can use, like, we get caught up in these acronyms for things, EVR, EVAP, EGR, even like mode 6 or whatever. The customer has no idea what you're talking about, right? They're completely clueless. That's why they called you, right? I go into the doctor and he's like, "Well, you got a thermonuclear blah, 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 we got to do blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Oh, you mean you got to fix my heart, doc?" "Yeah." "Oh yeah, we're gonna fix your heart." "Okay, great." How bad's it gonna be? "Well, you're gonna be down for 2 weeks, and it's gonna be a couple of months of recovery." "Oh, okay, right? Is that what I got to do?" "Yeah, that's what you got to do." Instead of, this is how the heart works, and this is how it pumps the blood, and this is where the blood goes, and and that's why you need the blood, right? And we do that. We, especially technicians who are talking to customers, you get lost in the details of how the thing works. And 81% of your clients, they don't want to know any of the details. They just want, hey, you got a problem with the car, it's putting that light on and it's making it run rough. And now we've diagnosed that. And we found out exactly what the solution is. Here's the solution to that. And here's what we got to do. And here's how long it's going to take. And does that make sense? Right? Again, physical, verbal cues. If you're watching me, you're seeing me. And the customer goes, "Yeah, that makes a lot of sense." "Okay, great." And the good news is that, it's only a $700 repair. Could have been a lot worse, right? And I can have that done for you this afternoon, right? And even if you notice in my voice and my tone, and I can have that done for you this afternoon. I slowed down, brought my tone down, because that's relaxing, right? And so I'm like, "Oh, here's the solution, and now we can take care of that for you." And are you doing that? Are you clearly communicating with the customer? So here's another aspect of this. I have an agenda. My agenda is make that appointment. We don't have enough cars in, whatever it is, right? We have stress, so I got to make that appointment. So you call and, "Hey, can you get my car in, and I need an oil change. Could you do an oil change?" Yeah, I think we can fit you in a week from Wednesday." "Okay." "Hey, we're really tied up right now. Is it really important? I mean, do you need it? Are you going somewhere? Or can we put you off for a couple of days and get you in? What are you looking for?" And I'm not, ask the questions of the consumer, of the client, of the customer. Ask the questions. I don't even know which word to use anymore, because we're all into this, like, this word's okay and this word's not okay. So I'm trying to transfer from customer to client, because before we were doing something else, and then it was, we got to call them a customer, and now okay, we need to talk to them about clients. And now we've got people talking to them about as guests, which makes sense. But I really want to be as clear as I can and create the clearest expectation possible, because I want the customer to understand what the experience is going to be. And then I want them to experience the experience. And then I want to tell them, thank you for experiencing the experience, right? And I think when we have these agendas in our brain, they keep us from listening. And a good salesperson all you're doing is watching and listening to the potential customer client because you're waiting for that clue. And I think also as service advisors, we're so inundated with price shoppers that every time we get a price shopper call, it's like it closes off a part of our brain. Okay. And it changes our physical selves and the way we talk and what we say. And it's just like, oh, man, leave the brain open here. Just because they ask for a price doesn't mean they really need a price. Just because they ask for a price doesn't mean it's the cheapest price shopper you've ever met, even though you just had 5 of those. Okay. So clearly state what the experience is going to be and make sure they understand that. And one of the ways to do that is active listening, right? Paying attention. And then the other way is to kind of repeat back to them, you know, oh, so you are going on vacation this weekend. And so it is really important that you get your car in, you know, yeah, that's what I said. Great. Now they feel heard, right? And now I can maybe propose a solution that will work for them. Maybe not, right? Maybe I can't get the car in. But if I leave it in a good spot with that person and maybe help them with another solution, hey, I know a good shop in town that probably can get you in. Would you like their number so you can give them a call?
I think so much of this is about earning customer trust. And I can speak from a customer's point of view that if I'm at the shop and my car needs brake repairs and using super complex jargon to explain it to me, and I look like I'm kind of over my head, but they're recognizing those cues and not addressing them and not boiling it down to something I can explain. Long term, I'm not going to trust this shop for my needs in terms of my vehicle. But if I see that they're really drilling down to notice those cues and then wanting to address those, making sure that I'm walking out of the shop completely in tune with what's going to happen with my vehicle, then I'm going to bring my car back to that business for years.
Yeah, depending on the experience you have with them, you're going to come back and you're going to come back. And not only that, if you really have a good experience, you're probably going to tell, what they say, 7 other people or whatever it is. If you have a bad experience, you're going to tell 25. Um, you know, so the experience you have, the feeling you have when you leave the shop. And by the way, you can kind of screw up in the beginning if you save it in the end. Hey, here's what we did. Here's why we did it. I know you were a little tense about all this, but just everything's great. The car's running well. In fact, if you like, I'll go for a ride with you, so you can feel how good the car's running. Whatever is going to make that customer walk away from here. And again, we write the play. So are we leaving the customer like, let's say that you just spent $2,000 in my shop, right? And now I've taken your money and I have your key in my hand and I'm going to hand you the key. So let's do 2, right? So here's 1. Will, here's your key. Have a great day. We'll see you when you need us. Okay, done. Here's another. Hey, Will, do you mind giving me a promise? Well, Will, it's really 2 things. First of all, in about 3 days, someone's going to call you and they're basically asking, did we do a good job? So if you can say we did a good job, Will, would you please recommend us to family and friends? Would you do that? Okay, great. Here's the promise. Here's the most important part, Will. If you can't say we did a great job, would you call me personally and let me know so I can take care of whatever the problem might be? Great. And now I'm going to shake your hand and say, thank you very much, Will. Have a great day. If you need us, don't forget, we're here for you, right? 2 different experiences, right? And so you walk away in one experience going, I just dropped $2,000 with those guys. And you walk away in the other experience, you say, those guys really care about me, right? They really care if I'm happy. And I wrote the play. Believe me, I wrote the script. I practiced the script. I know how to deliver the script. And it's not that it's just a script. It's not like I don't really care, because you got to care. But you can send different messages by how you communicate with your clients, right? And you want them walking away feeling really good about what just happened and really good about you, because that's how you get them back over and over and over again.
Let's move to discussing customer concerns and why addressing those right away is so important. That was another important guiding principle of the ebook that you cited. So How can shops create a system for prioritizing these issues when they arise? And what should be their overall approach to proactively addressing customer issues when those come up?
So I think we're talking about two different things. We'll start with the first, and that is customer brought the car in because it makes a weird noise when they make a left turn. Okay. And so I'm going to do an inspection on the car. I may or may not have communicated that well with the client, as well as, this problem with the wheel when they make a left turn or whatever the noise is. And, I figured out the noise. It's really not something that's very expensive or something that is safety related, but I've got a safety related issue, or I have something I want to sell because it's very profitable for me. So you and I are on the phone, and I'm like, "Hey, Will, how you doing? Hey, Will, you have a radiator leak in your car. We found that during the inspection, and we need to put a radiator in the car, and we'll have to do a thermostat and blah 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 blah. And that's going to be about $1,200. Well, where are you at, right? You're thinking, wait a minute, I didn't bring it in for a radiator. I brought it in for a noise with the wheel. So the first thing that you always cover with a client, always when you call them back or after you've done the diagnostic or the inspection, is what they came in for. And here's why, really. First of all, that's what they came for, right? And so psychologically and statistically, they're more likely to buy that. So, you're better off saying, hey, well, we found out what the noise was. And when you make that left turn, it's putting excessive pressure on the right wheel bearing. And so that right wheel bearing is starting to go out, and we need to replace that. And that's going to get rid of that noise for you. Now, Will, does that make sense? Oh yeah, Cecil, that makes great sense. Okay, wonderful. And it's not cheap, but we can get that done today, and it's just under $1,000. Now, Will, I've got a couple of safety issues I'd like to talk to you on your car. Do you have a moment for that? Right? And what that's called is a close and a redirect. All right. And so, I didn't pay a lot of attention to the $1,000 you're going to spend. I kind of assumed that you were going to do it because you have this problem. You're more likely to do it because that's what you brought the car for. And then I'm actually taking your attention off of that. We've solved that problem. And now we're going to talk about this problem. I'm moving you over to another thing. And now your mind is on this problem. We're going to talk about this problem. And we may talk about 5 or 6 problems, but we're going to talk about this problem right now. Right. And so it's very important, sales wise. If you want to be the best salesperson out there, you will always cover the customer's concern first. Now, sometimes that customer's concern does not outweigh, and they only, Cecil, I only have $1,000. So, do we fix the wheel bearing right now, or do we, fix the radiator? Well, we can't drive the car without the radiator. The wheel bearing's just starting to make a little noise. You might be able to get a month out of it, So let's do the radiator, right? That's what I do if it was my car, and we might have that conversation. But we've already covered the wheel bearing. We've covered that, and you're comfortable with that. And if you want to be the best salesperson, you want to close the most stuff, you always start with the thing that they brought it because they're more likely to say yes. And the best time to sell something is after you've already sold something. So when the customer's in a yes mood, in a yes mode, best thing to do is get them to say yes to the next thing and yes to the next thing. And so when you line up your work order, you always talk about what they need first, what they came for. Second, you talk about safety. Third, you talk about anything that would save them money if it was done with the first two. Like, we're going to do the wheel bearing while we're there. You have this axle leak. We should fix that, right? And because it's going to save you $400 in labor. Oh yeah, geez, Cecil, that makes sense. Let's do that, right? And you don't talk about the cost; you talk about the savings. And then last, well, not last, but fourth is maintenance. So things that I should do that the car needs, but it's not the end of the world, right? And then last on the list is always something you can give away. So it's something cosmetic or elective, something that doesn't matter that much. And the reason you put that on the list really is to create, again, you're creating the play, right? And so at the end, you say, Cecil, wow, that's a lot of money. I said, well, I can save you some money. Let's take this thing off the list. That's going to save you a couple $100. And you're like, you know what? Let's just get it all done. Or you might say, that's great. Cecil, you just saved me a couple $100. so I'm sending the message that I'm on your side. So that's one thing. And then let's talk about comebacks and problems, right? Because I think that's the other part of this is the customer's concern. Well, all of a sudden, we fixed the car, it went out, it comes back. Customer has a huge concern because they just spend money with me, and now their car is not working right. Now it might be my problem, it might not be my problem. So I need to act like I've never had a comeback. This is the first comeback ever, and that this never happens. Oh my gosh, Will, I am so sorry this happened. We'll find out what's going on, and we'll let you know. And by the way, if it anything to do with what we did, you don't have to worry about it. It's going to be no charge. If it's anything else, I will talk to you before I spend a nickel of your money, right? And so we're having that conversation. I'm making it seem like it's the end of the world, right? And that we care. And by the way, we do. But I've been in this business for 43 years. You know how many comebacks I've seen and dealt with and had? Um, I was talking in class the other day, and I was like, we had motors blow up. You know, not because we did something wrong, but the car had a lot of miles. We spent money on other stuff, and car was running great. And 800 miles later, the engine explodes. Not my problem, not my fault. But man, that customer needs to know. First of all, I don't want to take responsibility. You notice that I didn't take responsibility for the problem yet, but I was going to solve it. Okay. In class the other day, I was talking about having a wheel fall off of a car, and people were rolling. Oh my God, you've had a wheel fall off the car in 43 years, brother. Yeah, we've had a wheel fall off of a car, and I've had lots of clients that had a wheel fall off of a car, and I could tell you some interesting things that have happened lately that we all would go, oh my God, that happened. Not with me or my shop, but in some of the other shops that we work with. But we need to act like it's the end of the world for the client. But on our side, when we start talking to our techs and stuff, again, I can create a problem right off the bat. Hey, you need to get this car and get it checked out. You screwed something up, right? Well, wait a minute. First of all, I don't know if he screwed up or she, and I don't know that it's our problem. So, hey, we got a car that came back. We had it you had it a week ago. You did this work on it. Could you get it checked out and let me know what it is? Right? I don't need to chew this guy's butt. When he finds out that he did something wrong, he knows it's his fault, right? So I don't need to jump all over him. And by the way, it's not an emergency. It's not. There's only two emergencies in the shop, right? Blood or fire. Um, if something if somebody's hurt, that's an emergency. We drop everything, we take care of it, right? If somebody's gonna be hurt, like I see somebody go under a rack and the rack isn't right, I'm gonna drag you out of there by your hair if I have to get you out from under that car, because consequences are death, right? And so, and then the other thing is the building on fire. Other than that, don't treat it like an emergency. And a customer's car, even if the whole car blew up, the car blew up and it caught on fire and it burned on the side of the road. Well, at this point, I can't. I'm, I might be speechless, but it's not the end of the world. Did anybody get hurt? No, everybody's fine. Great. Okay. Now we can take a breath. Now we can say, okay, what do we got to do? Do we contact our insurance? Is it our fault? Did we cause the problem? If it isn't our fault, how do we help the customer, with whatever the ramifications are going to be? How do we help them get in a good place? I'm not going to take responsibility for it till I figure out it's my responsibility. And then I'll 100% take responsibility. So, again, these are all extreme things, but it's funny to me. I'll be in a shop and a car will come back. I'll give you for instance, in my own shop, I'm a service counter one day. Customer comes in and says, this car's got a rattle. Every time we go around a turn, it's got a really pretty big rattle in it, right? So I'm like, okay, great. I write it down, rattle, blah, blah, blah. Customer leaves, and I'm like, I got a few minutes. Let me go drive this thing, right? I drive the car. There's a bowling ball rolling around in the trunk. I swear to God. It's denting the inside of the trunk. So I get the bowling ball. There's a towel in the trunk. I wrap it up in a towel. I put it in the back seat so it can't roll anywhere. I go drive the car. No more rattle. Car's great. Call the customer. Hey, got your rattle fixed. Found your bowling ball. I said, oh, yeah, I knew the ball was there. Blah, blah, blah. Customer comes up and picks up the car, drives about 3 blocks, turns around, comes back, and he's upset because we didn't solve his problem. Okay. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I thought for sure that bowling ball was the problem. And so I went for a drive with the customer. Again, it's not the end of the world, right? It's not an emergency. Went for a drive, and they got a little bitty squeak when they go over a bump at low speed because they got a strut mount that's squeaking a little bit, right? So I'm like, oh, that's the noise you were hearing. Yeah, those are strut mounts, right? Here's what we need to do to fix that. We ended up fixing it. Customer was fine. But in this case, I'd have to yell at myself, you didn't fix the right thing. Yeah, I've got a customer back. And I get it. I mean, I know some shop owners, their lives are pretty stressed out and they've got 3, 4 cars coming back every day, 10 a week. And, and it's no wonder they're stressed out, but it's not an emergency. Make sure you put things in the right order and that you give them the right amount of emotion. Be very careful about how you talk to people. I think we learn how to hurt people very verbally very young, and I think we know how to play that game. A lot of marriages are destroyed by it. A lot of relationships are destroyed by it. A lot of customers are chased off by it. It's not going to help you. It doesn't win you anything. Um, think about the words you're going to say and the effect they're going to have on the other person, especially when you're dealing with people you have to live with, staff, people that are in your business every day. And if I lose a customer, okay, I'll get more. If I lose a staff member, a family member, that's almost irreplaceable. So, be careful about, how you communicate with people, and make sure you're communicating the right level of intensity for the situation.
That brings me actually to my next point in terms of internal shop communication and training your employees. So, how can shop owners promote a culture of better communication internally among their employees?
Well, you can, my son Kent did a podcast recently about like benefits. And one of the benefits that he was talking about was teaching your people how to handle their money. So bringing a money expert in to talk to staff. Why not bring a communication expert in to talk to people about communication? We had our summit where we brought in, I don't know, 200 clients approximately, and we brought professional speakers in. And one of the people, a gal named Shasta Nelson, she's a relationship and communication specialist, and she talked about relationships and building good relationships, and she talked about communication. Why not bring somebody like that into one of your regular company meetings? By the way, you're having regular company meetings. You're having in my shop weekly meetings to discuss problems and solutions and help people be on board and help people understand the business that we want to be. Again, if you want to be the best shop in the United States, do you listen to your people? Do you have them participate? Do you have them help solve the problems of the business? The answer is yes. So in one of your weekly meetings, why not bring a relationship specialist in, or a communication specialist, or a financial specialist? And so and then are you communicating? Are you setting the right example? Because I think that's something that we give a lot of lip service to, setting the right example. My dad was a great example to me. My dad smoked 4 packs a day, and at the same, well, he had 2 cigarettes in each hand, one in each hand. He was telling me don't smoke. That's a pretty piss poor example for that. Now, the other thing is my dad was a very honest man, and he took it really seriously. And so, as far as I know, he never lied to me or anybody else for that matter. And if somebody did lie to him, it was a big deal. And so, do we set the right example? Are we working hard on communication? Are we communicating regularly and giving people the opportunity to communicate? I think it's funny. You go in these shops, and many of them have that guy, that really grouchy, grumpy guy that is a tech, and he's a fairly good producer, and you kind of put him in the back, and you don't want anybody to interact with him. So every once in a while, a service advisor will go back there with a work order, and hand it to him, or he gets it through the computer, and very little, like, hands off, don't talk to that guy because he's just going to be grumpy and grouchy. And then you live with that day to day, and then you expect the rest of your employees to put up with it and not and not have it affect them or not have it send a message, right? What are we communicating by our action or inaction? You know, uh, bring a communication specialist and do a book club. I got some really great. There's a book over here. I think it's crucial confrontations. But let me pull up my. There's a book called Crucial Conversations by Joseph Rennie and Carrie Patterson, and there's also one called Crucial Confrontations. These are like really good communication books that will help you understand, how to deal with those things, how to converse with people, how to be a better communicator. And if you go in and you buy that book, and you say, Amazon's going to say, here's 5 other books that people bought when they bought this book. And so you could, and if you're not a reader, a lot of people tell me, well, see, so I'm not a reader. Okay, great. Get it on, get a Kindle book or whatever. Have it read to you. Um, are you making the effort to communicate, or have you shut yourself off? How many shop owners, they're in their late 50s, early 60s. They've been busting their hump for 40 years. It hasn't gone as well as they want, and they've shut themselves down. They're not hearing. They're not listening. You know, and I have this shop owner, and he's mad all the time. You know, and he's yelling at people, and he's not getting what he wants. And I said, you know what? Why don't we try a different tactic? Why don't we stop yelling? Why don't we just say, hey guys, you know, we're not getting what we want. You're not happy. I'm not happy. We're not very productive. We're not making much money. What do you guys think's wrong? How do you think we should go about fixing this? Right? And get them involved in the conversation. Now all of a sudden we're on the same side. We're not butting heads. We're not against each other. Do I want to be on the same side or not? With my wife, do I want to be on the same side or not? I can create whatever I want to create. I know the exact words to say to make her not talk to me for a week. You know, um, I also know the things to say to open her up and have a good communication. A good conversation with her where we can actually get something accomplished. And it's scary, right? Oh my God, I might say what's wrong, and the guys might tell me what's wrong. Oh my, oh my goodness, and then I might have to do something about it. Um, I don't know how. All right, well then let's find out. Let's work together. Let's hold hand. I'll hold your hand, right? Um, and if you don't like me because my hair's too white or I'm too direct or whatever, I can recommend 10 good coaches and consultants to you. They'll also hold your hand. But but why keep settling for the same thing if it's not happiness and joy in your lives?
Great perspective there. I think it's really insightful. In closing, what final pieces of advice or thoughts would you share with shop owners who want to form a strategy for how they communicate both with their customers and their team? And what would you leave them with where they could build an action plan from all these great insights that you've been sharing with us today?
So first of all, I think everything starts with a decision um, to ask for more, right? Not to settle for what you have. And even though it's scary, you say, you know what, I'm just not happy with where I'm at. And you could be, I don't know, you could be 30 years old. Hell, you could be 10 years old, but you could also be 60. And then you say, okay, well, geez, I don't know what to do. Oh, well, let's go look. I mean, there's so many podcasts. There's so much information online that I could go and interview 10 coaches without ever getting face to face with somebody, right? I could watch what they say and what they do, and I could say, that guy sounds like he might be pretty good. He'd be a good fit for me. And then I could give him a call or send him an email and say, what's it all about? And I have some questions. And just so you know, guys like myself, most of us, we're happy to talk to you, and I'm happy to give you 3 or 4 solutions, right? And help you without charging you. All right. Because the hope is that you'll like what we give you, and that eventually you'll say, hey, I think I want to be a client of that company. Um, so I think you have to make the decision that you want you want better. You want better for yourself. You want better for your staff. You want better for your clients. And then I would say create means of communication. How many shops, how many businesses that you could go into and say, when was the last time you actually interviewed an employee? And you might find out that the average employee, it's been 7 years since they actually had a real interview. Well, I talked to them at their toolbox. Nah, that's not quite it, right? And then set up meetings. It's funny. I'm teaching this class. I don't know, 46 people in the class, whatever it was, 50. And I said, how many of you have problems in your shop? Everybody raised their hand. So, okay, great. How many have more than one problem? Everybody raised their hand, right? And so, how many of you are having regular meetings with your staff? 3 hands. That's it. Well, how are you solving problems, right? Are you, who knows the most about inspections? Probably not the owner, the guy inspecting the car, the gal inspecting the car. Who knows the most about customers? Might be the owner, might not. Might be the person talking to customers, right? The people that are using your processes, that are working in your business, man, they know what's not working. Why don't you ask them, right? Worst thing that happens is you disagree with them. Well, since you're not listening to them anyway, at this point, who cares? At least if you ask them, give them the opportunity to tell you what's wrong. And then you have the opportunity to either decide to fix it or decide to let it go. It's up to you. So I would say create means of communication. If you're getting a lot of calls from your customers at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, wondering what's going on with their car, well, you better look at your process of customer communication, estimating, and sales, and find out where the disconnect is. Or you better look at the expectations you're creating, right? Be very clear about your expectations. I'm going to call you at 1 o'clock. Don't say I'm going to call you after lunch, because after lunch is different for everybody. I want a real clear expectation. And I think if you make time to communicate and you make that a part of your company, like in the culture, is that we're going to have company meetings and everybody's going to participate. That's another thing too. Owners are like, well, I had meetings and nobody would participate. Well, yeah, because you weren't listening, right? And it didn't make a difference. Can you make it? If one of my guys says, I'm really sick and tired of the fact that Cecil, you come out and at 2 o'clock every day, and you're like, get busy, right? Well, you know what? Maybe I ought to think about going out at 2 o'clock and saying get busy to everybody. Maybe there's a better way for me to do that, right? Um, or maybe I don't know. I've had meetings where I was personally attacked. I'm very direct. Sometimes I'm maybe too direct. Sometimes I don't communicate well. Sometimes I get angry. Blah 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 blah. But I don't have to. Yeah, I don't have to. It doesn't have to hurt me, right? I think that's another thing about our society. When I was a kid, I fought a lot, and my parents would be like, "Why are you always fighting?" They did this and they did that, and my parents kept trying to tell me, "You're the common denominator in the fight. If you choose not to pick up, not to hit somebody, then it's unlikely you're going to be in a fight." I learned that later, way later in life. But I can participate or I cannot participate. If you, if we get off the line and you say, God, Cecil, he's such a prick. I really hate that guy. I don't care, right? First of all, I don't know because you're probably not going to tell me to my face. But if you do, I still don't care, right? Because if you're in my life or you're not in my life, it's not the end of the world. Okay. Now, if my wife tells me that, maybe I care more. Or, if my son tells me that, maybe I care more. If one of my clients tells me that, someone who's paying me to work with them, maybe I care more, right? But it's up to you to take offense or not take offense. And I think we've lost that today in that, well, yeah, I'm offended by that. Oh my gosh. First of all, it had nothing to do with you. Second of all, it wasn't even, how can you be offended by that? That was meant to offend somebody else, right? Um, create communication in your business. You need to get to know your people, and getting to know your people is not, well, I know they have a wife. He has a wife and 2 kids. Okay. It's what are they worried about? What are they concerned about? What is affecting them in the business? What could we do better? to make their lives better. And by the way, if my employees have better lives, my customers get better lives, and I get a better life. And so stop being so angry all the time. No, my life has definitely not gone the way I thought it was going to go. When I was 21, I was going to be retired at 30 with $25 million in the bank. I'm 60 now, 60 plus, and I'm still working. Now I'm working because I love it, and I'm working because I don't have $25 million in the bank. But life gets tough on everybody at points in time. It ain't just you. So stop being so mad about it and start doing something different so that you can change it, make it better. I'll leave it at that.
Great place to close. Appreciate your perspective on this, Cecil. And if you want more of Cecil's amazing insights on this topic, again, we have a great free ebook on mastering communication in your shop. Highly recommend you go download that. That will be in the show notes of this episode. Where can our audience connect with you and find out more about you and your business?
We are theinstitute.com is our website. So that's WERETHEINSTITUTE.com, because we are the Institute. And then we actually have an online training center, learning management system at gear4shops.com. And there are a lot of classes on there. Some you pay for, some you don't. There's a lot of free education. And you can find us on YouTube and Facebook and I don't know, everywhere else, frankly. But yeah, we are theinstitute.com. Look us up. We do a free complimentary business evaluation. We're happy to talk to you. I tell people all the time, I just taught a class and somebody came up and they need help. And I'm like, look, send me an email. We'll hook up a time. I'll give you 30 minutes to an hour. No charge at all. I'll do my best for you. Now, I hope that I don't get 55 people doing that tomorrow, but, it's got to fit in my schedule. But I'm always wanting to and willing to help. And you don't have to sign up for a thousands of dollars to get help. There's a lot of free stuff out there. So, again, we are theinstitute.com. Come check us out.
Thank you for joining me today, Cecil. We'll be back soon with the next episode of the Shop Management Show presented by AutoLeap.